Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Roy Daniel, CEO and co-founder of Definity, a data pipeline observability platform that's raised $4.5 million in funding. Roy, what's going on?
How's it going, Brad? Glad to be here.
Super excited to have you. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Talk to us about what you're building.
So Definity is a full stack data observability and optimization really designed for the Lakehouse and Spark ecosystem. Very different than an existing solution or approaches in the market today. Definity is really designed to provide real-time observability, working inside the pipelines, inside the jobs, providing end-to-end visibility, starting from data quality, through pipeline health, jobs flow, lineage, all the way down to performance and cost, and really pushing the envelope in terms of actionability, really moving away from monitoring and detection towards the triage and automated recommendations and actual resolution. We work with enterprise teams today and, kind of really helping the teams pushing the envelope in terms of mission criticality and heavy workloads that really require this deep observability to make sure that they ensure reliability and performance.
And what's the founding story? This sounds like a product that you or your co-founder must have lived this pain. Otherwise, it's very, very hard, I would imagine, to observe that this problem even exists. What's the founding story? Take me back.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely right. So I come from a product and data background, I was a strategic consultant, I've done product data, projects, data modernization, ML applications. Original AI for AI was Gen AI across the board with Fortune 500 companies, Global 2000 in the US and Europe. I later led a big product organization that's responsible for very data-driven, data-heavy products. And I've seen the pains of when things go wrong, how everyone is now in a firefight mode and in a fire drill mode around, we need to fix this data today because our customers are suffering or because our business is suffering. My co-founders, Ohad and Tom, come from 2 decades of very deep software engineering background, and specifically the past decade, very deep Hadoop and Spark ecosystem. Building pipelines at a very high scale, very mission critical pipelines, powering fraud solutions that run at scales of millions of transactions per day. And every issue with a pipeline is causing immediate, model spitting out bad results and business impact very, very quickly and very immediately and very high magnitude. So coming at it from both sides of the data and ML engineering on the one hand and the product kind of data side on the other hand, we figured it out very quickly that we're solving or encountering the same challenges and trying to solve for the same issues at the same time, but none of us had a solution and our organization suffered because of that. And that's kind of what spurred the creation of Definity. And obviously, we know that we are not alone in the market. A lot of other organizations working in similar stacks and similar type of organizations, similar type of use cases suffer from the same challenges. And essentially, we started by building the solution we always wanted to have. And now we're building it, more widely across the ecosystem.
I feel like those are always the most successful and the best products, right? When you're building it to solve a problem that you're experiencing yourself, and then you can sell that to others. I think that's always the most successful companies. So I feel like you have all the ingredients of a very successful startup here. Now let's talk a little bit about the market category. So this is Category Visionaries. Of course, we have to talk a little bit about category. Early on, what were your thoughts on category? Was it, okay, this is a established category that we're going to go in and disrupt? Or is it, okay, we're going to build a totally new category from scratch?
So that's a great question. The way that we viewed it is we came into this knowing that our organization, our teams did not have a solution. And the immediate question was, why didn't we have a solution? And obviously, we looked what else is out there. And what we saw is that, first of all, the data engineering world is probably around a decade behind the what we call regular or software or application engineering world in terms of its observability and monitoring tools. Again, around 10, 15 years ago, there was a huge explosion on the APM, application performance monitoring tools, on the software engineering side with the data dogs of the world. We didn't see that yet in data engineering, which is a newer, I would say, category. around 4 or 5 years ago, a new category emerged. That's probably the second generation of data quality tools. A new category of data quality emerged. And a lot of the solutions there, again, approach the problem, right? One, for the ecosystem that's very heavy on the data warehouse architecture and very focused on the data quality itself. What we found is that we, in our organization, really lack this in-motion observability that's tied to the context of the application or job or pipeline that's creating this data. And this is where we essentially kind of took a completely different approach. We're not looking just at the data after it's created, but we're looking at the job and applications themselves as they create the data. So a completely different approach, kind of coming inside out versus outside in, and essentially approaching teams that have not been approached before and have not been able to utilize any of those solutions before because they were just working on different, planes.
Mm-hmm. And I know you just emerged from stealth. Was that 4 months ago, or when did you emerge from stealth?
Yeah, we officially emerged out of stealth late Q3. So being in the market now for around, 1.5 to 2 quarters, it's been fun.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
Have things gone worse than expected, better than expected, or exactly as expected?
So I think we are actually pretty impressed with the pull and demand that we see in the market. I think that we are really sensing teams having an urgency around those problems of how do I ensure data and pipeline reliability? Mm-hmm. How do I ensure that my pipelines are operating in the optimal performance, optimal cost, of course. Cost is top of mind for probably every organization in the world today with this macroeconomic. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of urgency of teams, migrating their jobs into new platforms. Obviously, AI readiness and the entire effort and initiative around that is making the underlying data even more important. So we're seeing a huge shift in mindset on how do I become more proactive? Mm-hmm. How do I enable my data engineering team to focus on the right things? And if I want them to do that, I need to make sure that they are not bogged down by debugging or, tackling issues, validation cycles, long validation cycles. So yeah, I think we've seen a huge demand. I think the year started off pretty strong, and we're just seeing teams that, especially in the Lakehouse and Spark ecosystem, are really thirsty for, I need help seeing what my pipelines are doing. I need help protecting my data. I need help optimizing costs.
What about on the marketing side? So coming out of stealth, what was that marketing strategy? What does it look like?
Yeah. So, we cater, to teams that work at very high scale in terms of their data operation. We see that typically those teams have very heavy workloads and very mission critical data that feeds into the product, that feeds into ML models, that feeds into feature stores, regulatory reporting, customer reporting. Those are typically bigger organizations. And we typically, work with the leaders of those organizations. So the strategy was really, how do we meet those teams and leaders where they care and where they have the pain? And the idea was really, how do we go after them at the point of, of need and making sure that we cater to them. So there's a lot of direct connections with the market. Again, it's less of a mass approach, a lot of direct personalized connection with those leaders. On the other hand, our solutions is built by engineers for engineers. Those are the users of our product. Those are the folks that get the immediate benefit and that use the product day in and day out and see the value and the technical value. So we continuously lower the barrier and accelerate, I would say, the opportunity for those users to use our product and experience and experiment with our product. There's actually just a new launch coming up probably in the next couple of weeks, just around that, essentially allowing users to start experimenting with the product very quickly in their own environment, and that we are super excited about. So folks can actually test the product in their own hands, which is the best way for them to get the value and start enjoying and benefit from the value there.
So today it's more enterprise sales, it sounds like, but it's going to move to more PLG. Is that thinking?
So it's 100% enterprise sales. I would not say that it moves into PLG, but I would say that it's a combination of how do we enable those, strong engineers in these ecosystems that know what they're doing to start really experience. I think it's kind of, two-pronged approach coming together.
What are you doing to rise above all of the noise? So I've probably, done, I think 1,200 episodes. I would guess 90, something like that. Probably maybe 50 to 90. It's a very broad range. You've been with founders that are building in the data space. There's, a lot of people building here. Not just, competitors, but indirect competitors, a lot of noise. How are you rising above all of that noise with your customers?
So that's a great question. I think that there's, and I would separate it to two. There's with our customers and with prospects or folks that have never heard of us. I think with our customers, it's just day in and day out. The team is working with those customers and making sure that they have the best experience possible. And that means, number one, having a very high bar for the product and solution, but also being super hands-on in terms of onboarding, making sure that they have the right tools and understanding of the product, and making sure that we are answering and addressing any issues or any, feature as soon as possible. I'm super proud of my team of being able to be so responsive and being able to have really deliver this, world-class customer experience. So that's with the customers. And again, I think then it's just making it very easy to cut through the noise because they see the value and again, they experience the value in their own hand. I think with prospects or new folks who never heard of us, I think that's a great question, right? And it's obviously in today's world, data space is very, a lot of marketing, a lot of buzzwords, a lot of, I would say you call this maybe noise out there. I think to rise above it, you really need to deliver a unique approach. You can't be just another player in a specific category that caters to the same audience with the same type of solution. And I think by taking a completely different product approach and making sure that we hone on this messaging in, every channel and avenue possible, including providing actual value in terms of the ability to share. For instance, again, we just launched a couple of months ago a free tool that helps teams have a full assessment of their health and cost in their platforms. So the ability to provide actual value and the ability to really present a new approach that's very different than what's out there today, that's our kind of way or approach to cut through the noise.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
And how do you evangelize that and get people to adopt a new way of doing things? Behavior change is hard. Getting people to understand different and new ideas is hard. What are you doing to evangelize this vision that you have and get your target customers saying like, yes, I like what this guy is saying?
So I got to say that on this front, we are lucky in a sense that the market is educated in a sense that they know that the product in it, as I mentioned, I would call it data quality or data monitoring categories is out there for the past 4 or 5 years. So from that perspective, again, and there are always new folks that maybe don't know it as well and kind of need, walk through it and making sure that they understand a little bit better. And for that, again, we're sharing our message through podcasts and webinars and, demos. And of course, a lot of very deep customer conversations, conferences, meetups, stuff like that, blog posts. But I think we are lucky enough that overall broader market is relatively educated. They know, again, we work in the very sphere, kind of the head of the sphere, the tip of the sphere of the market, I would say, from an engineering standpoint. So they know very well what they need. I think the unfortunate reality is up to now that really didn't have this type of solution. And I think, again, we are bringing kind of the innovation and the approach shift in this space.
What about fundraising? So as I mentioned there in the intro, 4.5 million raised to date. What have you learned about fundraising throughout this journey?
Yeah, so fundraising was very interesting, right? We raised toward late 2023, obviously a very interesting time to fundraise after the big boom. And I would say a little bit more quiet market at the end of 2020 and throughout 2023. I think what really made it for us and kind of the key learning that I gathered from our journey, folks who know your space is key for understanding when you deliver, really deep innovation and nuanced innovation that requires folks to understand the pain points of the customer to a second and third degree and not just at the surface level. So working with experts in the infrastructure space and data infrastructure space and data observability space, and folks who really know this and understand the customer and can put themselves in their seat and understand how those type of conversation will go and understand why there is a huge pain, why there is a big gap in the market and why it's needed and what do we bring to the table, I think was key. And the ability to get to talk to those investors is, I think, kind of what paved the way for us. And secondly, as always in life, especially with investors and especially, when you start to build your company, working with folks that you can connect with, trust, and have the kind of utmost integrity on a personal level is fundamental. And that's true for your co-founders, it's true for your founding team, and it's true for your kind of founding investors, I would say.
True for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, final question for you. Let's zoom out into the future. So we can go 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, however far out you want to go. What's the big picture vision that you're building here?
So Definity is building kind of the next generation data management solution for the Lakehouse. The opportunity is huge. Data Lakehouse is becoming the go-to data architectures for teams building for analytical use case, AI use case. There are a lot of companies, and I think, everyone probably seen the market landscape, right? With the 2,000 modern data stack companies out there. There's obviously consolidation and there's obviously shifts around what's going on. But I think the ability to provide a unified solution across the Lakehouse for teams to really manage their data, their metadata, and able to not only observe, but to react and act proactively in the most automated way is key, especially as you see distributed, again, high-scale teams that have different teams at different level of expertise, at different focus, at different levels of kind of business logic focus, different technology stacks potentially. The ability to drive that in a standardized way, automated way, without having the engineers having to invest a lot of effort into it is key. And we're building towards that.
Amazing. I love the vision. Final question here. For those who are listening in that want to follow along with you, where should we send them? Where should they go?
Fantastic. I always love that. First of all, Definity.ai, our website, a lot of content already there. Add more and more content. This episode will definitely go in there. Secondly, we always love to have those conversations with data engineers, potential customers, even just folks who are interested in the space. Always happy to share our approach and, be helpful. So definitely reach out to me over LinkedIn, email, roy@definity.ai. Let's have the conversation.
Amazing. I love it. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it and wish you best of luck.
Brad, thanks so much for having me today.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.